There we go. So as admin, you'll have this button here, reset password. Simple enough. All you have to do is just make sure you're in the user detail of that particular person. So in this example, we're going to choose Nicole Blanchard. And we're going to click on her name. We're going to go reset password. You're always going to get this pop up to confirm your actions. All right. It's just told us that the system just sent an email to this user. This email. The user should now receive an email to log back in the system. We cannot confirm if the user did receive an email. You would have to do that outside the system, sending the user an email directly saying, "Hey, we just sent you an email saying, please reset." So just to be clear, I had to log off as Patricia because it looks like her test environment doesn't have all the right buttons for the role. So I'm just going to stick to admin as you see here. All right, next step.
Okay, hold up. So are you saying that to change a user's password, we do all these steps and we say reset password, and they're supposed to get an email that tells them to reset their password?
Yep, they will receive whatever email that they signed up with, which is on this side here, for example. I know it says equal, but this is all just because of the test environment. We don't want to put real equal. But, for example, whatever email they're signed up with, that is exactly where that email should end up with. But the limitation.
So we don't actually change their password. We just kind of initiate changing the password so they can go in and do all their own stuff. Correct?
Yes.
All right, got it.
From my understanding, admins, ideally you'll never make a password for somebody.
Right.
Ideally.
That's what I'm asking.
So, but the only thing that I just want to be clear is that the system doesn't tell you if the email went through or not. That is with almost everything. The email log only kind of tells us, was there an email even sent, but doesn't necessarily confirm that the user received it. So, as just a good practice, just to kind of follow up with them outside of the system, just letting them know, hey, we reset your password, please click on that link, type of thing. Any more questions? Yep.
So guys, just to interject, keep in mind that what Devin just showed you, the user could actually do by themselves. So if they log into, or they try to log in to the system, if they go to the login screen, there's a button there that says reset password, and it's essentially going to do the same thing. If they're having trouble doing that for some reason, then you guys could actually initiate the reset from, the system.
Ideally, the user should just be able to go forgot password from their external portal, as you can see here. Ideally, right?
Exactly. So, same thing. It does the same thing. The user can do it, or the admin can do it.
All right. So we're going to move on to adding an internal user. The easiest practice would just log in as admin. Literally just click new user. You can, if you are hiring a full, say like 12 people or something, you could do the add multiple users, but what this ultimately does is groups the users and makes a group for those users. So they have to be all Perkins, or they have to be all work ready, if that makes sense. If you want to do like a mass multiple user, but honestly, we like to go individual, just to make sure that they're set up properly in the system as far as role hierarchy and what they're allowed to see. All right. So everything that's required will be in red. I'm just gonna do my name here. So the system will auto-populate, for the most part, let's see, most fields once you type in a little bit. It should auto-populate my nickname and email, or my username, I mean. There you go. See, you're not generating any of this stuff. All you have to do is just make sure you put the person's last name, first name, we'll give them an alias. You are allowed to edit all these fields, of course, but if you want to just keep things a little simple, right? The next part, chatter free, chatter external. From my understanding, it should just always be chatter free if this person's an internal user working in Louisiana. Same idea. So, in production, this is where it gets a little different. Down here where it says user level, is this person going to be an admin or a staff? It sounds like it's just going to be Patricia, so ideally everyone else is going to be staff. But one thing that's missing here because of the test environment is under additional information, there's going to be two more fields. There's going to be, are they work ready or Perkins or both? And what administration are they? Are they just Perkins or just work ready? I can quickly log into production just to showcase this. So main differences from QA, test environment to production, real environment, your role, adult education, that's work ready, that's how we're naming it, the naming convention, program manager, program staff, get your executive roles here. These are your internal, I believe, roles, and then your Perkins roles as well. So in this case, let's say we have a new Perkins internal user, part of the Salesforce Cloud. They are, let's say they are a fiscal user. Oh no. Yeah, fiscal user. Here, you want to make sure that either put staff or admin.
Primary or secondary. Staff or secondary.
All right. All these little check boxes here, I'm not going to lie to you, they're useless. They do not pertain to anything Louisiana. These are all just Salesforce buttons that we were not allowed to remove. Basic mailing information. Now, this is where, as admin, you have to just be careful. You can bypass a lot of things by just clicking these buttons here. First login done, approved by admin. When you do stuff like this, you're bypassing the registration process for this person. So meaning, once you've filled out everything, the user will then receive an email saying, hey, you are now in the Louisiana system. You must click on this link to log in the system, right? And so that will boom, give you the first login done. From there, there's I believe a chain of events where I believe Trish or whoever has the executive, whoever has the task for it, which I believe is Trish, will receive like a new user has been registered. Are they approved? And so this is where it's either approved for admin. In this case, is not the case. There's just a staff, but they are a reviewer though. So I would definitely click is reviewer here. All this just to assure that all the tasks are going into the right order. Again, you can edit this at any time.
So I can't see us actually doing this for a potential user. I could see us maybe going in and editing it, but
yeah. Our
practice is to have potential users go through the processes in the handbook on page 7.
Correct. So you definitely prefer the internal portal for sure. Definitely easier.
Right. I mean, we use the internal portal. We would use that some, I think, but for the most part, though, we have people go in and do their own stuff, and then we approve it or not.
Yeah.
That's good. No, definitely know your business. So, all right. So I'm just going to click cancel in this case. Sorry. All right. The next portion I wanted to show was external login and registration, but that seems pretty self-explanatory, I hope, in the sense that, let's see, all you have to do is just direct, if they're not already in the system, sorry, to this website here, their external login, simply register in the system, and from my understanding, Eugene is working on the next flow for this. We may have to update the user guide a little bit just to kind of change the layout of it, because I think this one was made back in 2016 or late 2016. I could be wrong. But for the most part, do we have any questions as far as like external user registering?
No, not at all. I mean, if we don't know who they are, we don't approve them to register.
Boom. All right. That's good.
And another thing, if we don't let the external users just have as many secondary users as they want to. If they're asking us to add someone, we say, well, who are you deleting?
Okay, I see.
And we go in and deactivate whomever the person was that left or whatever the case may be before we will approve a new activation.
Wow, I like it.
So maybe you want to look at the activation process.
Yeah, so we're just gonna.
We'll skip to do that.
Well, we're already finished with the basic. Anything that you consider should be basic, or anything that you feel like I kind of just skipped over, feel free before I move on to the next.
No, those things feel basic to me, I guess, because y'all created a little handbook, and I've done some of these before, so I understand the process. So these feel basic.
Right.
To me.
That's good. Yeah, we want some of the stuff kind of just be second nature, you know. Don't second guess yourself, right? You can always go back in the system for the most part. For the most part, you can always go back in the system and correct anything. All right.
Right.
Yes. Following the PowerPoint, we're going to move on to intermediate, and in this case, I can go deeper in the user update because I'm already in the back end, and then we're going to move to the front end to show you the roles and responsibilities. So just kind of switching up a little bit, we're going to highlight the user update tool. Okay, so I like to work within these little groupings here. In production, it's a little more organized for sure. But for example, like you said, hey, somebody from, let's say, Delgado wants to deactivate one of their secondary users. Or we can even go as far as a project staff is now going to become a project admin. But for now, let's just deactivate this user. All right. So just get familiar by never clicking on the username or the profile. We would always have to click on the full name to get inside the user detail. Just little things to navigate. We're going to scroll all the way to the bottom. We're going to find a field on the left called Department Role Update Wizard.
So Devin, before you go on, so what Devin is going to show you guys is how to deactivate a user. The old way of doing it is by, if you could scroll up, Devin. The old way of doing it is to uncheck the active field, which Devin is pointing to. So that works. The only issue with that is if you deactivate a user that way, the records that have been assigned to them are not going to be reassigned. So they're going to have pending tasks that no one's going to be able to access. So the way we've done it is the system is not going to force you to reassign it to someone else when you're using the user update tool. So now let's continue that.
So, question there, please.
Sure.
Is there any way not to have the option to deactivate, just checking that other box?
Yeah, so like to hide that field, right?
Yeah, because when somebody leaves, then all of their tasks are reassigned to someone else.
Right. So, okay, I don't think I got the question. Are you saying that? Go ahead and ask it again, please.
All right, so like I see on the right side, active. I want to deactivate this person. I can click off that arrow, take it away, and save it. So that person's deactivated. They can't get back on the system.
Right.
But if we want, like if Sarah's in finance, so if Sarah was leaving and switching over somebody else to her financial duties, then we would do the department role update wizard. So
yeah, you would do it for both. You would use the wizard for both. If you deactivate it using the checkbox, it will deactivate, it will work, but all the records assigned to this user, in this case, Sarah McCamia, all of these records assigned to her are not going to be reassigned to somebody else. So we're asking that you don't use the checkbox, and if you want to deactivate, you use the user update tool. So the user update tool is going to allow you to deactivate, make a primary, secondary, or secondary, primary, and it's going to also allow you to change departments.
Okay.
Devin
so what if you have a person that would not have any duties that were going to someone else?
If you have a person,
for example,
go ahead.
Yeah, like the reserve grant. This year, it was a pilot project. They went to specific people. It may not be that way next year. They may not go to those people. So these folks will have no reason to be active in the system. So we're going to deactivate them. So I'm going to use the department update wizard and just update. So is there an option if I'm not assigning stuff to somebody else?
If you're not assigning anything to, so yeah, the only thing it's going to ask you if the user has records is going to ask you to pick another user from the same, I believe, department or organization to reassign it to. If they don't have any records, it's not. I don't think it's going to even ask you, but it does account for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
So I hate to keep repeating myself, but this is the test environment, and a lot of the validations we don't carry over. And so this active is checked right here. Shouldn't be available to anyone but the admin. So you wouldn't be able to unless you were specifically logged in as admin. Simply edit, uncheck the box, and then hit save. I believe we removed that action about a month after we made the update wizard. All right. So the user update will launch on another page, and the user update is it's not a supercomputer, right? But it's intuitive enough that it picks up certain validations and such. And so, as Eugene was saying, if this user did have any records assigned to them, so be it they were the owner or any task, the system should ideally pick another available user to simply swap over the records to said individual. But in this case, all we're doing is deactivating this user. So we're going to make her inactive now. But I only know this because of use case now and because of Delgado. I think there's like 4 or 5 people already, signed in and such. It should give us who do you want to transfer records to. Awesome, it did. So it's saying, all right, Camilla, we want to give this to Danielle Gray, who happens to be a primary applicant, and what we're transferring over would be 8 amendment records, 9 award records, 4 product reports, 1 application, and then 16 payment requests. You would click on here to highlight, click next.
So this part takes a while because it's doing all the reassignments.
Yeah.
So if it does take a while, that's normal.
All right. So we're going to hit finish, and it's going to just refresh on the same screen. You can close the tab if you'd like, but I'd like to click finish and let it reload. Perfect. All right, so we're good. Now, I'm going to close this tab. I'm going to, let's see, where's Delgado? I believe I can look up like this. All right. Sarah Camilla, let's refresh.
She's not active anymore.
All right, she's no longer active, but it looks like there's already another account.
Just 2 of them. Okay.
All right, so we got 2 accounts, but one of them has been deactivated. What if she gets rehired and we have to bring her back? You would go in the old record that is no longer active, back to the user update. I believe it's where is this? These are productions. Yes. Okay. This can make sense. I'm looking at the wrong person. Okay. So just another little asterisk. You have to be admin to perform this for the user update to work seamlessly. Okay. So now we're gonna reactivate her. From my understanding, I don't think this is actual business process, so I could totally skip this if you would like. I'm not sure if you guys reactivate people after you subsequently.
Occasionally we do. Yeah, occasionally we do.
So I take it back. So in this case, it is a simple motion. You don't have to do user update. You can simply just activate them.
That's it.
But as you see, no records were reassigned to this person. Records have to be transferred over to Sarah. And that is one little asterisk that it's in the books, but we just don't know how it will work when you reactivate someone and give back their records. Because one way we have unfortunately been able to do it is giving those records manually back to them. But it's not as manual as you think. It's a query that we can do behind the scenes, but it's kind of surpasses the admin. And you'll definitely have to send us an email if you would want the person who's been reactivated with the same task again.
So guys, if that makes sense, essentially, if you deactivate a user and you want to activate them again, there's not an easy way to give them back all the tasks or announcements or applications that they used to have. All of those have been reassigned to the user you picked. So that's just one thing.
And it's an easy way. Send Devin an email.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So it's easy enough, but for admin, right? It'll take forever. So now moving on.
Is this an area that you're going to try to simplify, or is this just part of the system that if you have to reactivate somebody and give them back records, it's just a behind the scenes, a little bit more complicated process?
So from our understanding that you just kind of gave us another more context, but business-wise, we thought like if you deactivated somebody, they're gone. They're not going to come back, and the only reason why we would ever log back into their account is to make sure that we transferred all the records over. But we should definitely make a case to see if we could transfer any old records back to said individual, kind of reverse it, For now, that is kind of a back burner in the grand scheme of the user update tool, but we could definitely add this. We could definitely add another line here because we are supposed to meet again. So if you would like, it almost seems obvious that we should have something like this in here.
You guys have any questions so far?
Question?
Sure.
No, sir. Not from us.
Okay. All right, cool.
So just making sure when we deactivate.
And then one other thing to note is that if the user doesn't have any records and you're using the inactive user module, the button on the screen, it's not going to show any fields or records that need to be assigned because obviously they don't have anything assigned to them. So just a note when you guys are using the tool.
All right. So still using Sarah as an example here. She signed in as a secondary user. She just got promoted and is now the admin for her role. We're going to go back here, user update, and send us to a new tab. And again, we have three options. She's an active user, so we can deactivate her. We can swap her department, make her, in this case, just work ready or both. But here, she just got promoted and we're going to bump her up one level. So we're going to give you one option because she's already the secondary applicant. Here, the user should throw any errors in the event that, hey, there's only 3 people signed in and all 3 of them are already secondary users. I don't think that would happen because you have to have one primary applicant, but here, where it says success, you would have received an error message saying like, hey, you don't have enough secondaries to make a primary. One of those scenarios. But in this case, there's plenty of users to balance out. All right. Delgado now just happened to accept work-ready funding, or they're now part of the work-ready adult education, right? Let's update what they can see. Currently, they're only Perkins. Here in this event, you have 2 use cases, both or work-ready youth. They are still accepting Perkins, and they are now starting to accept adult ed. So we're going to hit both, next, So what's going to happen is, hey, hold up. So you're now going to work ready. You need a secondary person. But what's happened is it's telling me like, hey, it found someone, and this is who you should put it. So I guess without my knowledge, there was already somebody here as a work ready. So it's kind of a bad example. But either way, it's a good thing because now what's happening is we're going to make, so Sarah's already a primary. We're going to make, yes, I'm sorry, we're going to make this other Sarah the secondary.
Two Sarahs.
Yeah. So update, and then what we're going to do is log in as Sarah Comenia to see if they can, or if the system updated fast enough, right? Where they can see any work ready funding opportunities. And I know for testing there might not be any, but let's just refresh and try. But this will also segue partially into how to ghost log in as an external user. Okay. So we're back on the user detail. We're going to scroll down. All right. We made Sarah a primary. We see that here. Her profile is now project admin. We changed their department, and they're now considered both. Everything's both now. Program access for both. Administration is now both. All right. We have confirmed that the user update tool works. All a success. So now, let's log in as Sarah. Just to confirm that last piece. We're going to go here on the contact. I'm not sure about you. I like to right click and go and just open in a new tab. It should just open up a new tab either way when you click on that link. So now we are in the front end, the UI of LCTCS. As an admin, we always want to enable Gov Grant Setup. Sometimes it will save this for you, and it will then say to save. If you're familiar with the contact view, we have all the basic information. That's confirmed. Primary applicant, access for both. All right, so now how do I log in as Sarah? We're going to go to the 9 square menu here. Is there another way to say this? I just call it the 9 square menu, which will then take us to what's called View Native Page. As an admin, this is where we live. So, this right here, this contact page, front end. This native page is the back end. All these blocks make up this front part. Where we have to just worry about, where this drop-down menu says Manage External User, Log in to Community as User. So mind you, why do we have to do all of this just to log in as somebody? Simply put, it's more for security, and it's more so just to make sure that you are logging in as another individual, as admin. It's black and white. You didn't accidentally log in this person. You went into their system. That is it. Yeah. That's the best way I can put it. All right. So we logged in as Sarah, and already confirmed. She can see some work-ready reimbursement. We play around in QA a lot, so please forgive us if it looks a little kind of sloppy. But she also has access to Perkins. So now this is the next segment. Does she have access to set records? So let's click start. Yay, she has access. The reason why she has access is because we went through the user update tool and it provided all of the records and it transferred all the sharing rules to her. We have the edit button and she can submit for approval because she is the primary. All right. I'm going to pause here. What I just covered was, let's see, 3 steps in updating a user's role, updating their department, and then deactivating a user to then subsequently transfer over any records. Then, to confirm all these changes, we learned how to shadow login as the individual by enabling GovGrant setup. So again, give us access to the back page here. When we logged in as a user, we tested out their sharing rules by just hitting the start for their task, because if they couldn't access the record, none of this will show up, only reimbursement, only the title, and it will say insufficient privileges. All right, so let me just pause here and log out as Sarah. And so see it that we logged out, it takes you right back to your admin page. Let me just tab out here. Okay, so I'm gonna pause here and let me just go back to the PowerPoint just to kind of review. But when I do that, if you guys have any questions or anything that's kind of jogging your memory, if you prefer to see anything else. Okay.
Any questions, guys?
No, we don't have any.
It's very straightforward. I've been following along with your little mini guidebooks too.
Awesome. Yep.
Oh, awesome.
Excellent.
One thing we haven't fully gone over yet, it just kind of came up to my mind, is the open case, the new form that's been available. I'm not sure if we ever gave like a thorough rundown on that, but we can push that. Just making sure we're kind of going through each thing here. Changing profile, best practices for deactivating user. Okay, that's good. Sorry, guys. All right. Okay, here we go. Updating email template content, adding help text, troubleshooting someone not having access. Okay, so shadow login. Are you comfortable with that? That motion? It is about like 3 steps, but definitely very useful to get a bird's eye view of the external user. Okay, so we have 3 more here, and let's see. Would you prefer if I just showed you the troubleshooting, the sharing rules first? I think it's a little harder than updating an email template and adding text to a field.
Is that the sharing rules? Is that what you gave Angela?
I think I might have given that to Tom. Let me double check the.
I would say that the sharing rules is a little bit more complicated because there's a lot of stuff that could be going on.
Yeah,
So,
it's not a central pinpoint, but just to give you some troubleshooting advice for sure. It's more of what we're kind of going for that one.
probably show the email template.
Okay. All right.
So we'll show the email template. That's okay because I know we're kind of short on time.
Okay.
I think it was Trish that wanted to leave, so we'll do that. It's a little easier. It's a little bit more straightforward.
Okay. So as admin, again, all these are mini guides, except for one, I believe, is the sharing rules. That's the only one that I couldn't make a mini guide for. But moving on, to change an email template that already exists in the system, simply go from the setup page to the left-hand navigation. This quick find search, that should be your best friend. You can put any little keyword and it should pop up. So see, I just put email T and boom. Now, in the same case as manage users, we like to work in folders. In production, this is going to look a little different, but as far as in the testing environment goes, we're going to use this folder called gov grants. Typically, it is go underscore gov grants is typically where we house all the email templates that are in production. Just as a little tidbit there. So these are all just kind of generated from the system, and say, hey, it's 2018 and this email template still says fiscal year 2017, right? And so we want to literally just change 17 to 18, or keep it very, very simple, right? And so in this case, when you open the HTML email template, you get this preview. You get how it would look as a HTML, and then you get the plain text. Inside these brackets here, as admin, that is not for us. That is strictly for the developer and how these email templates are mapped. What we get to change is simply just the wording in between the brackets. Definitely send us an email if you think there's just a thing that's not populating correctly. The developer will look into it, of course, and make the appropriate changes. But in our case, what we're doing here is just simply changing some verbiage. So you would think you would be edit properties. It's edit HTML version. All this is in the guide. So one thing that we have to kind of realize or remember is that everything goes in sequential order or cascading effect. Everything has a cause and effect in Salesforce. So you must do one thing to do another. So here we are editing the HTML, what's sent to the user. So for example, we're just gonna do this. Cool. Okay. Change the signature here. Click save. You can, you can change fonts, you can change font style, or you can change font size. You can edit color as well, but we like to keep it plain Jane here, so just click save. And so now you've successfully changed the HTML portion of it. Now we have to change the text version of it. So it will refresh, take you back to the preview. Now all you got to do is edit text version. And instead of retyping everything, you copy text from HTML version. So you must work on the HTML first, then the text version, because you can just copy over what you did. It's going to give you a pop-up. Are you sure you want to overwrite everything? Yes, we do. And here we go. Our signature has been updated. We can click save. And again, this is merely for existing, this template already works and it's being sent, you just want to make a small change. When it comes to editing and creating new email templates, definitely just give us a call or an email, okay? Because again, the properties is where it gets a little complicated, just a bit. Where are we housing the email template? And what letterhead are you using from this email template? letterhead and email template are two different things. Email template is literally the body, and the letterhead, as you can see, is this upper picture here. If you'd like, I can briefly show you that. About the same, just about the same.
We won't be changing that
Okay.
unless, you know,
Yeah, you're
there's
getting
a
like
lot that's changed.
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
other than that, we won't change that.
I figure because that's something I don't think anyone we haven't had anybody change these yet. Right? Because this is your branding. This is what you have, right? So you have successfully changed the email template. Nothing fancy here. You can just click back. You can test. You would just be sending an email to somebody or yourself, okay? For example, you can look up somebody here and send it, give that email to them, okay? But in this case, we're not going to bother David here. Okay, so that's for email template. One second.
Any questions there, guys? Was that pretty straight?
No, that's really clear. Good.
Okay.
No
Excellent.
question.
Excellent.
All right. So we're still logged in as admin. Now we're working in the front end. So, for example, what if a user is working on their reimbursement request and they don't understand one field? And when you go to this one field and you see the help text associated to that field, even for you, it doesn't make that much sense. And you want to edit it now. So, what we're going to do is edit the page block detail and enter in. So before anything, just want to make sure that GovGrants is enabled. I think I just disabled it, so I'm going to just re-enable, sorry.
You probably show me again. When I pop up the
Okay. One way you know that you're in GovGrant mode is you see these little gear icons next to each tab here. That's how we get into the page config. So in this case, users having trouble understanding certain terms in a reimbursement. I like to go the super long way. Please forgive me, but I like to find a grant, and in this case, let's see, Perkins Basic, and let's see. From that, I find my reimbursements. I'm gonna, let's see, picture. Okay, so they have one in progress, good. I go in the reimbursement, and you see these question marks here? Kind of gives them like a brief understanding of what each field is required from the user. So this is where it gets a little tricky, and why we consider it advanced, sort of, because as you can see, there's a gear icon for each section. You want to make sure you're on the right section. So what I like to do is I always go from this top because
So before you change it, why don't we show them what was going to change?
So
help text you're gonna change.
what I like to do is see how the content is displayed. And so what I like to do is go on this. You'll see it says modify page layout config. This right here breaks down what you see in the front end. It breaks down the tabs, then it breaks down each individual slice. For example, in the back end, you'll see right here, we're on the payment requests tab. We call it payment requests, reimbursement requests, just how we title things in the back end. Okay, where did you go? And then from here, these are the individual tabs. So again, this might be a little advanced. Everything's slightly hidden, just slightly. So you sort of have to know what you're looking for, pretty much. So in this case, we do not like how, let's say, for example, organization address. It says organization address is auto-populated. Okay, what if they don't understand what auto-populated means? Maybe we can put auto-generated or something like that, right? We're gonna edit the individual page block here. Now this is where it gets a little scary, because then you're like, hold up, what is all this? Each little thing means something, all within this little piece. All of this is simply being laid out right here. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Right here.
You know what, Devin?
Yeah.
This is not something that we would
You would feel comfortable
probably
doing?
ever do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a 99.9% chance that we would never ever change anything here, because this is an active grant, and it's been established what everything is supposed to look like and what's supposed to be there for every single active grant. We would not go in here and change this.
Okay,
There's
good.
no reason to go in here and change this.
Good, because it's a little much. I'm not going to lie. Definitely this is another, like, send us an email, we'll definitely take care of it for you type of thing. In the event, of course.
Right.
In the event. So, okay, cool. We actually beat our time here by a whole hour. Okay, sweet. I'm not going to lie, that's pretty awesome. So again, if someone ever complains or anything of the sort, or, for example, something's not being populated here, give us a call, send us a note, because essentially...
Yeah,
this
we would, because if something's not populated on one, it's probably not populating on the rest of them either. So
everything is related.
Right, we'll ask about that.
All right, awesome. So I'll just make a little note for that part for the page config stuff. Might be a little too much.
Right.
All right, so I think there's one asterisk, or no, I think we covered everything. Oh, all right. Basic troubleshooting, a user's access to a record. This should be simple enough, very quick, just let's see, where are we at? Okay, so we're back at the grant. So same scenario. What if they can't access a reimbursement? So as admin, we're gonna find the reimbursement that they can't access. Again, this is probably bad practice, so I'm just gonna go to post grants. Reimbursement requests. Okay, there we go. So now we will find the reimbursement request we like. Ideally, the user would have given you either the URL that they're working on or the title they were working on. In this case, I'm just going to click on the basic carryover here in progress. So the use case here is that I can't access the record. It's saying I have insufficient privileges. Why can't I access the record? So for you, ideally, one flag should be is how was this person given this record? How were they given the task? Was there someone deactivated in the past and the records were subsequently transferred over and maybe, not all the records made it through? So we're going to go back to our 9 square native page. All right. So we're in the record from the backend. Now, to make sure who has all the sufficient access to such record, we do a quick look, and we can see the owner is an Ellen Hill. We see the payee is Ellen Hill. And for example, what if Ellen Hill says, I can't access that record? Okay. We're going to go sharing. And then here, this lists every individual who is supposed to have access to record. So all the Perkins Program Manager has access to this record. And now you see partner users here. Essentially all the individuals within her own organization. But you see here what type of access level. We have read-write, and we have full access. And then we have another one, read-only. You got to make sure the individual either who's saying that they don't have access is supposed to be able to edit would mean either full access or read-write. So for example, she's not here. Ellen Hill's name isn't anywhere located in this list, and we know for a fact it's supposed to be. We're going to click add. All right. We love subfolders, and so our person should be in partner users. So, yeah, partner users. Mm-hmm. Those are the external people in the org, and it's by alphabetical order by first name. So you find said individual. In this case, I think we were thinking Ellen Hill, right? So you're going to go add. Now you're determining their access level. Read only, read write. That's all you have. Manual sharing, payment request sharing, manual user sharing. All that matters to you is manual sharing. Honestly, you may not even have to touch anything because it should auto-populate in production, but always leave it as manual sharing. We're going to click save, but I think it will give me an error because she's already on here. Oh yeah, she's already on here, so I can't do it, but it gave me the error saying like, well, she's already part of it, so that's one way you can also troubleshoot, of course, right? But honestly, this particular use case has kind of slowed down a bit ever since the user update tool has been introduced, because all records have been reassigned after somebody's been put as admin or been deactivated. So, but in the event that you get those one-off or anything like that, definitely you can at least know like, hey, is their name even on here? And if you don't feel comfortable adding, hey, definitely email us, but feel free to show this like screenshot, like, hey, I even looked inside the record, to see if they even have access to it. So.
Yeah, guys, just to add on, I would say be careful when you're making changes here. So by default, the system knows the way that it should configure the sharing rules. So if you go in and if you manually add a whole bunch of different users because you think they should have access, it could cause issues later down in the system. So when you're doing something else, people who shouldn't be able to see things will be able to see them. So just be careful. I would say be very careful when you're adding an individual user to the sharing records, because usually that's not the way it's supposed to work. You might want to add user roles to see, individual records, but individual users is kind of iffy because things could change. You could change their profile, you could change their department, and that's going to break that rule. So just be careful when you're doing that.
Not likely to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
But now you know how it's done.
Right.
Okay. Any questions?
None from us.
Okay, excellent.
I'm good.
Good.
I appreciate the little, little mini guides.
Yeah.
That helps a lot.
Yeah,
All
absolutely.
right. Just want to make sure. So outcome. Let's see. Oh, roles and responsibilities. That's the last piece here. I didn't highlight because the user update tool, you should be using it for internal folks as well. But in some cases, you can go into a funding opportunity in the back end or a revision and just manually change. But remember, as admin or PM, if the revision or funding opportunity is in drafted mode, you should still have a pencil icon and simply swap out the individual like that. But I can continue showcasing this, and this will be our last tutorial. If not, I can just skip over it. This is to swap out, for example, this was already a use case here. Phyllis came in, Tom was removed from a funding opportunity or to review.
Right.
So for example, okay, let me just show it. All right. So again, as admin, planning tab, you will know which one has to be changed, and let's see. Just want to make sure. These are all active. Okay, this is good. So we're going to find. Okay, this looks good. There's number of applications. All right. So the assignments tab, we see that. All right, Phyllis, sorry, we don't want you doing this one. We want to put Ton in here. But unfortunately, it's already been published. There's many ways, but the fastest way is admin to kind of keep things moving along. Because this funding opportunity was just created, meaning there isn't any applications or reviews pending yet, just yet. So we're going to go 9, native page. So right here, roles and responsibilities, you can add somebody else, but what we're doing is just changing Phyllis out. So we're going to go into the ID or the record. All right. We're going to click edit. So what we're going to do is just take Phyllis' name out. We're going to just do user, because user is the internal. It should pop up all the internal folk. All right, here we go. You have the option to notify the new user who's assigned. Change the status, but we're going to click save. Uh-oh. Well, here's our validation. So,
There you go. You have to pick
it
somebody
says
else.
program staff user cannot be assigned for fiscal staff position. Oh, interesting. All right.
Was Ton already assigned?
No, it was assigned for this. Okay, so how many fiscal staff are
We were assigned to the other two positions.
there?
Maybe one of them is assigned to Ton. All right.
Would that be? Ooh, actually did so. That's what I'm understanding. All right, so we might have changed Todd's role in the system as well, because it should have gone through. Would Jeff Fleming or Debbie Cruz also have a physical staff position, or no? Just those?
No.
All right, so this may be a bad example because there's only one physical staff user, and it's a pretty hard validation, as you can see here. Program staff user cannot be assigned for physical staff position. That's a business logic right there. Makes sense. Maybe we can change the program staff instead. Okay, let's just swap out a business program staff. We should be able to do that. So we're gonna exit out. We'll go back. We're going to go to our block, roles and responsibilities. In this case, we're going to change to program staff instead. Should allow us to do that. Okay, so let's just do. And we're going to cross our fingers. All right, change took. So we can exit out here. Funding opportunity, we're going to refresh. So, thank you, Trish. So you have now, from the back end, changed the roles and responsibility here. The use case that we have here is that you just published the funding opportunity. No one's applied to it. Not yet, right? No one's applied. You just want to make a quick change. Something very brief. But this is something that the user update tool won't do. But again, you guys are pretty thorough, so I don't think this kind of happens all the time. But in the event it does, as an admin, you do have the capability to go in the back end and change the record. All right, I'm going to consider this a stop here.